So I think the game that we've pretty much all been waiting for since about forever is finally here, and I got my hands on the full version of Need for Speed, and I thought we would start showcasing the game and start showing off some of these sweet cars you can build in this game. And I wanted to start it off with this guy, the Toyota Supra. I had so much crazy, I went crazy with this car. I had a bunch of money, and I just went ham and spent basically all of it on this Supra. So I wanted to talk about some things, because the last time you actually saw footage from this game was from Gamescom. That was back in August, and a lot of the game has changed since then. The game is going to be constantly evolving, and since I played it back in August, the game has evolved since then. One of the things that you've already seen me do is slam the car to the ground. That was not a feature that was available at Gamescom. It's now in the full game, and it's very, very cool. You'll see me go back into that particular menu and play around with that a little bit. I changed some other things in there. You can change the camber on your car. You can change how far the tires stick out. You can totally go for a wide body. I go for a sort of wide body Supra here with like these like wheel arches here, and then I bring the actual tires out, and it looks absolutely incredible. So if you're new to Need for Speed, if you haven't seen any of my Need for Speed videos so far, first of all, hello, this is Need for Speed, probably my favorite racing game of the year, if I am fairly honest. One of my favorite things about this particular game is just the in-depth customization that you can do. This is not a game where you will go in and you'll build a car for 5 minutes. I did it here because I was very short on time. When I was recording these videos, if you guys knew, I was in England 2 weeks ago playing Need for Speed. We played the full version of Need for Speed back then, and we were able to capture footage. We had 2 full days of actually recording and playing the game, and a lot of that was spent with just grinding out and getting as much money as possible so I could do as many builds as I thought you guys would be interested in seeing. So yeah, I sort of rushed through the upgrading process and the sort of customization process here a little bit, but you will sort of see. Okay, so here's the suspension tuning that I mentioned before. You can raise the ride height up or down. You can raise the rake up, or you can make it go to the front or the rear. I move the tires out a little bit. I give them a tiny bit of camber, a tiny little baby bit of camber, and it looks so good. Another thing that I did with this particular Supra is made it a hella sweet drift car. So you'll notice something. Some things in that particular thing were locked. That's because I don't have those parts installed. So the performance upgrades now are a thing in Need for Speed 2015, and I threw them on here. So the brakes, the tires, the everything. Keep in mind this is sped up a little bit because like I said, it did take me quite a while to build some of the cars. I sadly didn't have as much time as I wanted to go in and build and fine-tune everything individually for each individual car. So you'll notice some of my driving isn't very perfect, or far from it, I should say. And my tuning could probably be quite a little bit better. But like I said, on the time that I had, I decided to do as many builds as possible, while still getting some, like, all the major things done, essentially. So I noticed that, okay, so for this Supra, my goal for it was to build a drift car. So if you want to build a drift car in Need for Speed 2015, I'm going to do a whole separate video, like how to drift at Need for Speed. But here's the basics. Get a car. Rear-wheel drive, I would suggest. You can totally drift all-wheel drive, but I would suggest something rear-wheel drive. It just seems like a little bit easier. Then what you want to do is, once you are a high enough level, get some drift tires for your car, toss on a turbo or a supercharger, and then that's basically it. Also, nitrous. Nitrous helps as well. If you are doing some drifting, you can totally go and get action drifting. Action drifting and time drifting are a little bit different. Basically, what the action drifting and the time drifting do, or the time nitrous do, is essentially, with the action drifting, if you're drifting, you'll get points, or you're getting refilled your nitrous with doing actions, for instance. And if you have a time nitrous, it will just fill up over time. I found the time nitrous works better for races, and the action nitrous works better if you have a drift car. So I decided to throw on patented blue paint, not at all patented, but it looks pretty cool, I think. I just love the styling of this car. I just go crazy with it. I'm like, what can my options be? I sort of went with a matte-ish blue with no real clear coat, essentially. But anyways, I saved that, tossed it on my car, and that was the build finished. So I decided to take this car up into the mountains and do some drifting. So this particular mission, I'm basically just replaying a mission here. Basically what it was is you have to stay with the group and score a certain point bonus, certain drift points. You can see my goal up in the top right-hand corner is 53,000. I'm currently in the group. These are all the other people I have to stick with to get points in this particular lobby, and I do some drifting stuff. So you will notice that the drifting, since Gamescom, with the sliders and with the performance upgrades, is a hell of a lot easier now. You will definitely notice that once you actually get your hands on the game, which I recommend you pick up EA Access. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But, yeah, the drifting is a lot easier than what we had at Gamescom. Essentially, at Gamescom, we were running essentially stock cars, essentially, with no real drift tuning on them, and we were just trying to put them sideways. And it went well-ish, but in comparison to this, it is no match. I've beaten my, like, target drift score, and I've been driving for very short amount of time. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's hard. Okay, here's the thing about drifting in Need for Speed. It's easy to get into, but it is very hard to master. Some of you guys may know a person or a fellow YouTuber called GTA Wise Guy. Robin is his name. He was at Gamescom, and he was also at Guildford with us playing this video, playing at the same time as us here. He was actually sitting next to me. He was doing some of the same missions as I was, and basically tripling or quadrupling the scores that I got on my missions. I don't know what the hell he was doing differently, but he was so good at the game, it was unbelievable. Watching him drift was just a work of art, and it was insane. It was insane. So yeah, Need for Speed is a game you can get in and you can just start drifting with, but it is incredibly difficult to master. I don't know how the hell Robin did it, but it was simply incredible just watching him put these cars sideways. It was so freaking awesome. Anyways, I destroyed the drift score there. I'm doing a different one here, which was a little bit harder. I had to get 135,000 drift score, but I did have a hell of a lot of checkpoints. Again, one thing that I did notice while playing Need for Speed is that the missions, at least the drifting ones, were fairly easy. Some of the timed events and some of the races themselves were quite hard. Some of them even rage-inducing. We were playing in an office. Some controllers were almost thrown. Some swear words were definitely uttered, and some other things that will not be named. We were getting really bad with some of the races. We just couldn't beat them. We got stuck on a couple missions. But one of the things that I did notice is that for the most part, the drifting missions in this game were fairly easy. I don't think I had to do any of them twice. But yeah, you can see I'm a couple corners in, and I'm already at 31,000 points. You'll actually see what I do. I was far from good here. Like, this is really sloppy. I'm not even going sideways. I'm just like losing control essentially. And yeah, it's really not too difficult. At least this particular car. Like I said though, if there are some cars that are just like, no. One of the things that's actually quite difficult about this game is sort of finding that sort of balance point between cars. I'm going to have another build going up today, later today for another car, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in depth, but I did want to talk today about EA Access, because when you guys see this video, the game's not officially going to be out yet, unless you have EA Access. If you don't know what EA Access is, essentially what it is, it's a service by EA which lets you play EA games 5 days before they actually come out. You can actually play them for 10 hours before the game actually comes out, and Need for Speed is on that list. And by the time the majority of you guys watch this video, you will be able to play Need for Speed 2015. So, what I'm going to do is we actually have an EA Access copy, or a copy of EA Access, or some 1 month subscription, essentially, to EA Access, and we're giving it away to one of you guys. So, if you would like to win that, we are going to include a link in the description down below. It'll take you to the Aero 12 website, just read the instructions, and it's super easy. Essentially, just put the comments of, like, what car you want to customize most, essentially. Just make an account on there, totally free and everything, and just go leave what car you want to drive around in most, essentially. And you have a chance at winning a copy of EA Access and getting your hands on Need for Speed before the game comes out. Anyways, that's what I'm going to be doing. I actually have plans to do some streams this weekend. I'm going to hope to stream on Thursday and as well on Saturday. So fingers crossed all of that pans out. I will probably destroy my 10 hours on EA Access, so I'll need to sort of figure something out. But I'm loving this game, and it is so freaking cool. You can see I'm destroying the drift score already. I'm at, like, how many checkpoints I'm at? Like 30-ish checkpoints? I'm at 150,000. Okay, I'm at 28 of 90 checkpoints. And I've beaten the thing, essentially. All I would have to do is just race it. I was like, nah, the Supra, I'm done with it. I just quit the race. Anyways, guys, that was Need for Speed 2015. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Like I said, I'm going to have another video coming out later today featuring Need for Speed 2015. If that's something you guys want to see, click that subscribe button down below. We're going to do so much Need for Speed stuff. I cannot wait. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.